And again, thank you to Jeremy, Nick, Mr. York, and of course my wife Adrian. Thank you for everyone who has stayed up. Look, Terry, you know what? Even if we don't make it, in which hey, we're not dead yet. We're not dead yet. But even if we don't make it, I want to thank you for everything that you've done. You joined me at let's see, we'll do this Eastern time. You joined me at 4:20 this morning, Eastern time. It's now midnight 15. You put in a shift. You've put in one hell of a shift. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Daniel, thank you for joining over at the show. I really hope you got a kick out of that. You get to see the other part of my life, that part's my wife and the fun stuff that she gets to do. Like she said, I do the serious stuff, and she has fun, and I love it. It works perfect. So, granted, I had to sit out there with our dog, which boy, that dog's got a gut problem today. I am telling you, there is something wrong with that animal. Love him, love him, love him, but boy, he's he's got one hell of an issue. Folks, we are still on the hunt for 300. Nick's last estimate was we needed about another 130 or something like that, 150, whatever it is. So if you can help us, tag. From now on, last hour, tag as many people as you can. Let's just fill up those numbers. Let's get those numbers to where they need to be. I don't. I know that we're going to be joined by somebody who specializes in helping our veterans with getting home loans. He's a mortgage banker. He works here in Colorado, and he and I have met. He's joining the Community Pay It Forward program, which is always great. It's always I love hearing stuff like that. So, but yeah, Ryan Champion is going to be joining us here real soon. Actually, I got to send him the link, but then he'll be joining us. So bear with me for a second, Ryan. And wow, I got a lot of Ryans. So I have GM mortgage. I have figured this out. My hands are tired. So please forgive me. Boy, Ryan, I hope this is right. Anyway, we are going to have Nick's show, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen one of Nick's shows, but if you haven't, check it out. Look, the kid, he's great. He does really, really good work. He knows what he's talking about. He loves what he's talking about, and he has fun with it. And that's something kind of nice, being able to see somebody who takes as much pride as he does. So at the top of the hour, we are going to be going back to Nick and watching his, and then I'm going to come on and I'm going to shut this down after that. So, but we've still got one more hour to go, and I will be paying attention here in just 1 second. All right, there we go. Hopefully I got that sent correctly. That would be nice. So, going to kind of recap a little bit on some of the stuff that we heard today. Shocking, a lot of things. And I think one thing that was really shocking was different stories from different people. Different stories from how men are treated and how women are treated. That's scary, guys. That's scary. We shouldn't have to worry about stuff like this. This isn't the freaking 1920s. We should be able to work, everybody should be able to live the life they love now and continue to make it and continue to enjoy their life. Ryan Champion is a gentleman that I met in one of our networking groups. You guys saw one of the networkings we do at noon, which seems like a long time ago. I mean, like, it almost seems like it was at least 10 hours ago. Which actually, in hindsight, that really wasn't that long ago. But I am very, very proud to bring you a really good guy. And the thing that I'm going to say about Ryan before I bring him on, and I put this on his review, and I absolutely meant it. I've seen people who get excited about how they work, about their work. I've seen people who enjoy their work. Ryan enjoys getting people into homes. He really enjoys getting people into homes. It's one of the things he's excited about, a new venture he's starting, and he's really wanting to get you into your new home. And I'm proud to introduce you to my friend, Ryan, the mortgage guy champion. How you doing, brother?
I am doing good. It's been a long day for me, but I imagine not nearly as long as yours. So I fell asleep in my chair not too long ago, and I woke up and was like, oh my goodness, I got to be on in 20 minutes here. I better get my stuff together. So,
it's actually kind of funny. My wife went on for the last 2 hours because they do a paranormal show, and the Paranormal Network lets me piggyback on their show or their programming all day long. They shut down their stuff and they simulcast with us, so we can grab a hold of a larger audience and really discuss what we're trying to talk about. And so the owner of the network and my wife, who's kind of the co-leader, and Nick, who's another one of the co-leaders of the network, they all did a show for a couple hours and talking to Jeremy's dad, who is an honor flight recipient, which they tried to tie. They did a great job of tying everything into the subject matter and did that. And so the plan was, I was going to go catch a Z or two. I was going to go do it. Didn't happen. I got out there and I'm like, it's kind of funny, Ryan, as I get back in here and sit down and I'm like,
well, don't fall asleep on me, Zach.
Well, if I'm starting to talk and then all of a sudden it gets really deadly quiet.
Yeah, well, I'll try to do my best. This is probably not my forte.
Well, one of the we were discussing this, Ryan. Hey, Terry, thank you for coming back again. Terry, I want to tell you personally, you joined me at 4:20 this morning, Eastern time. So, that's I'm sorry, Central time, which means that was 3:20 my time right here. It's 10:30. You put in one hell of a shift. Thank you so much for tagging everybody you did and doing all the hard work you've done. Thank you. And if anybody else wins that trip, I'm going to tell you, God, I almost hate saying this, but that means the election was rigged because you have tagged more damn people than I've got on the on Facebook. So, Ryan, you are a mortgage. And what is it? A mortgage broker, or are you?
I'm a mortgage broker. So there's different ways you can get a loan. There's a retail side, which is your typical bank will be a retail lender. There's also some other retail lenders. And depending upon how they work, they may have a fairly limited number of products they can offer. Most of them are going to offer a VA loan, which we're talking about a little bit tonight. But they might not have a construction loan for VA. They might, and they might not be able to offer some other products for self-employed borrowers, some different things that as a mortgage broker, I work with multiple lenders. Right now we've got about 20. We add and take away of those as we need different products that we can offer a much broader range of loans than most people. So that means that like one that I'm telling people about right now is the ability for getting loans on a short-term rental property. You're buying an Airbnb. You want to make an investment. And there's a different way you can look at how much money you can earn and how much that qualifies you for. Well, a lot of lenders won't consider short-term rental income. They'll only consider it if you got a year-long lease. So, but I've got a lender that will consider short-term income for an investor to help them get a loan on a home that they want to Vrbo or Airbnb. So I've just got all these different products, which I love because, as you said, I'm starting this business. I've been in this business for 2 years now. I spent 25 years as an engineer managing projects. And as an engineer, you get to solve problems every day. And I was thankful I never worked for like a big airplane company or something like that, because I would have got stuck on left-wing aerodynamics or something and been very specialized. And what I did managing projects is I got to do different things every day. And I always got to learn something new. So for me, it scratches an itch to have a lot of different things and ways to solve a problem for a borrower. And so I tell my referral partners, I did a presentation today specifically talking about niche products to a real estate office. And I told them at the end, it's like, send me your problem borrower. When nobody else has been able to get them a loan, or you need, they don't fit any programs you got, send them to me. I'm going to try and get them through. My favorite story loan from the last year had a mom and a daughter, and they were living in an RV, and they were facing another winter in Colorado. And they didn't want to do it. The space was too small. It was going to be cold. And they came to me through a realtor partner, and they'd already been to 3 different lenders and been rejected every time. They just couldn't get it through. So they said, hey, give Ryan a try. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. I didn't have much hope for him, but we looked at their credit. It was too low. Their credit score was too low. We got their credit score up. It was a difficult loan. The realtor and I, it was a lot of emotional drain, because we knew if we didn't get them the home, they were selling their RV, they could end up homeless. It was just a lot of emotion in it, but we got it through. And it was a tough loan. It wasn't a very big loan. I didn't make a lot of money on it, but the joy on their faces when they signed their papers was all worth it. It was completely worth it. There's a mom and a daughter. The mom came up and gave me this hug and just latched onto me. And I was like, I didn't know what to do almost. I was like, what in the world's going on here? Because I'm not that emotional, but I changed their lives by just being able to work hard to get them into a house. And I'm going to remember that loan over one that was big and I made a lot of money on. I'm like, I forget those because they're just standard. I'd much rather do a loan that had more meaning in it to get someone into a house. So
I think that is one reason why I get so excited about what we do is, having that satisfaction, knowing that what you've done has literally changed someone's outlook, if not their lives. And we do it by doing what we do every day. So it's not like we're going out of our way and trying to reinvent a wheel. We're doing what we do every day. This is important to us because, why, Ryan, would we be in business where everyone struggles? If nobody can afford a house, this would be a terrible place for you to be in business, right? I mean,
correct.
So let's make sure that we are standing up for the people who have, these problems, helping them get through those problems and turning those problems into successes. So what are some of the things that the first-time buyer always forgets or always falls short on that you need people to understand? If you're buying your first house, remember to get this done.
Well, most people will go online and to a simple calculator. What do I qualify for? And those are okay. I mean, they give you some general ideas, but you really need to, in my opinion, when you're buying a house, put your team together. And your team is your mortgage person, whether it's a mortgage broker like me or a mortgage banker. You need to have someone you trust. Not everybody has the same programs and not everybody has the same rates. So I'm a bit selfish, like talk to me first before you talk to a real estate agent, before you go looking. And then I want to get my borrower fully pre-approved. That means they've given me all the information required, give me all the documents so that I have a really strong case to say, yes, you're going to qualify for this and get approved for this, and we're going to get you a loan. So that when they go out looking, they're looking realistic. They know what their payment's going to be. And so, especially as a first-time home buyer, they don't understand that, well, I have to pay taxes on the house. I have to pay insurance on the house. There might be an HOA, so that they get a complete picture. And a mortgage professional can help you do that. The other part of your team needs to be your real estate agent. And don't just hire your cousin or your aunt or somebody. You want a professional real estate agent. So someone that does it full time. You don't want someone that's doing it part time. And the reason I say that is there's things that I see real estate agents write into the contracts on loans on the purchase, and then we have to go fix it later because it doesn't work for your financing. I see people use a realtor from out of an area. So like in my area, there's lots of water rights and things you need to know about. And you get a realtor from out of the area and they don't have that local knowledge you need. And then you get in trouble because there's some unique things in different counties and different cities that the professional realtor, they just know this stuff because they deal with it every day. And the part-time, do it every once in a while, out of the area realtor doesn't know those things. So you want to create your team with people you know, like, and trust and can communicate with, and that will explain the process to you. So it's going to make a big difference, I think, for a first-time home buyer, especially in that.
Where does somebody like a home inspector, where does that come in? Are they part of your team as well?
No, that'll be someone that the realtor will help find you once you get the house under contract. So as part of buying a house, you get an accepted contract between the buyer and the seller. And in Colorado, which is the one I'm going to speak to because what I know the best, there's this table of dates, and it has all these things that information that has to be provided and reviewed, inspections that can happen and be reviewed. And it gives certain timelines where you can pull out of the contract without losing your earnest money. So when you buy a house, you put down some earnest money. It might be $1,000, it might be $5,000 to say you're serious about buying the house. And then if you violate your contract, the seller can keep that earnest money. Colorado's real estate contract is very friendly to the buyer and provides lots of outs for that. So if there's an inspection that doesn't work out, if the title work comes back and there's some sort of problem on the title, if the appraisal doesn't come back, if you're getting a loan, you're applying for a loan, and for some reason the terms of the loan aren't what you expected it to be, you can pull out. There's lots of ways to get out if you've worked to get those dates correct and you have a realtor and a mortgage professional that are helping you meet those deadlines and advising you on it. So you're protected. So the inspection happens after the contract is done. The realtor, the professional one, knows who the good inspectors are in town that do a good job of looking at the houses, and they'll give you a few names that you can select from to choose who you want to inspect your home to see if there's any issues with it, especially older homes.
Yeah. You just mentioned that if your rates weren't good enough, that's one of the reasons why they should talk to you first, right? I mean, or is it a buy house? The rates depend on the house that you're getting, or if you get a loan and your down payment is here, your payment's going to be here no matter what house is it is.
It's going to be, your rate's going to be based on you as a borrower,
right,
not on the house. So lenders don't look at how old you are. They don't look at what sex you are. They don't look at what race you are. Those are all protected classes plus a few more. They look at your credit worthiness, your credit score. So there's a system where they look at how much debt you've had, how much debt you've paid back, and then you give a score on it. It's all proprietary. Your Credit Karma score is not the score. The score you look up on your credit card is not the score. It gives us an indication where it's at. But unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of different algorithms for determining scores. And the mortgage ones you don't get on those apps. We have to actually pull your credit. So you want a higher credit score. A higher credit score gives you generally a better rate. Now, on a VA loan, which we're going to be talking about, they have some very generous pricing, even if you have a low credit score. It's an amazing program for someone that doesn't have as good of a credit score. So, and you don't pay extra for it. But if you're not a veteran, which I'm not, so I can't take advantage of that program, my credit score matters a lot. Especially if you're not a first-time home buyer. First-time home buyers get some credits that they can have a lower credit score and still get a low rate. So that's one of it. The second thing that's going to not determine your rate, but can determine how much mortgage insurance you pay. So let's say you put 5% down on a conventional loan, then that means the lender you're more at risk of defaulting because you don't have a lot of skin in the game yet. The lender is more at risk of losing their money if they have to repo the house, foreclose on it and repossess the house and sell it. They can lose money on it. So all those buyers that don't have a lot of money down, they all put into a mortgage insurance pool. And people say, oh, I hate that mortgage insurance. We shouldn't have to pay that. Well, you used to have 20% down to buy a house, and getting 20% down saved is tough. And with house prices going up, it's like, can you outsave the house prices going up? And it's tough to do. So mortgage insurance actually allows you to get into the house with less money down and to buy that house versus getting to that 20% down payment. So it's a cost, but it allows borrowers to get into a house sooner, which is great. The VA loan, if you're a veteran, served in the National Guard, you've served in the reserves, things like that. That one, the US government, because of your service to the country, they guarantee the loan. And because they guarantee the loan, there is no mortgage insurance. And not only that is you don't have to have a down payment. You can finance 100% of the loan. So if you've served, if you've sacrificed for our country, take advantage of that program. It is it is a huge benefit for you that you need to use when you're buying a house. So
did they also get breaks on like credit score, or is there
still so like you're gonna so as you go lower credit score, you will pay a higher interest rate. And as you go lower credit score, if you have less money down, you pay more mortgage insurance. With the VA, you can have a lower credit score and you're not paying a higher interest rate, and you're not paying additional mortgage insurance because the government is covering you. The government's got your back there.
Well, I've known a couple vets that I'm wondering if maybe they got into the wrong loan, and maybe I could talk to them and find out, because I know one that's paying an outrageous amount for his home, and it was supposed to be a VA loan, but it really is. It's outrageous. So I think.
Well, I mean, interest rates are high right now. So.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he's been in this home now, I'd say 13 years.
Okay. Well, 13 years ago, the interest rates were quite a bit higher as well.
Okay. Yep.
So
yep.
Trying to remember what they would have been 13 years ago.
So
we could look it up.
Yeah. What with everything being like it is right now, is this a good, great, or stay away from buying right now? Where are we at?
Okay. I can't predict the future. I wish I could. I wish my crystal ball wasn't black and had 3 holes in it and was good for knocking down some white pins. I wish it wasn't that, but that's what it is. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Interest rates are high right now. Like we're quoting around 7% right now. Well, when we came off of 2 and 3% loan rate interest rates a few years ago, 7% seems like it's incredibly high. But the average interest rate, if you look back over time, is about 6%. So it's a little bit high right now, but it's really in a normal range. The tough part is affordability, in the fact that house prices are high compared to average incomes, and interest rates are where they're at. So houses are relatively unaffordable right now. So you would think an unaffordable house, people can't afford to buy, that house prices would come down. And if you guys like to, if people like to watch YouTube, there's what I call the doom porn people out there, and they will always have another reason why house prices are going to crash. At first, years ago, was the silver tsunami. Baby boomers were going to retire and they're all going to sell their houses and house prices were going to crash. Well, that's been going on for quite a while right now. Baby boomers have been retiring. There's been no silver tsunami. In fact, what the baby boomers are doing is they're buying second homes. So they're living in Colorado and buying a house in Arizona that they can go spend the winter in. And even when they sell a home, they buy a different home. They might just downsize, or they move to be closer to the grandkids or whatever happens to be. So that didn't happen. And then recently we came out of COVID, and you saw headlines that foreclosures have increased 71% year over year. And you think, holy moly, we're going into foreclosures. Well, the thing of it is, they were comparing against COVID when the government said you can't foreclose on someone. So that 71% year over year increase was still a lower foreclosure number than before the pandemic, like in 2019. So people love to grab this little bit of data, a little bit of something, and they love to scream that home prices are going to crash. There was a recent one that Airbnbs and Verbos, the investors, were all losing their shorts. It was bad data. They were throwing stuff up on YouTube. House prices are going to crash. So do I know what the house prices are going to be in the future? No, but I can tell you what's happening right now is generally every month we're setting a new record high in home prices in the United States. Now, your local market may be different, so you got to look at your local market, but house prices haven't crashed, and I don't see them crashing. And the reason is because people keep having sex, having babies, moving out of their parents' household. They want their own house. Households are forming. There's a demand for houses. politically, however you view the southern border and people coming into the country, we have more people that need places to live. There is more demand for houses than we've been building houses. And so we're at a deficit right now of how many homes we have, and we're not building fast enough to keep up. So it's a supply and demand issue for me. And there's plenty of demand, plenty of people that can still afford a home to buy it. So we're not seeing house prices fall. We're actually seeing them go up. So that comes back to your question. Is it a great time to buy? I believe if you have a stable income, you're planning on staying someplace for at least 3 years, and you can afford a home, that it's going to be a long-term wealth building tool for you to purchase a home. Because homes appreciate on average about 4% a year. Depends on your locality, but 4% a year. So let's say like here, standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath, where I'm at in Durango, Colorado, is $500,000 outside the city in the bedroom communities. So you're paying $500,000. You multiply that times 4% in a year on average. You gain equity at $20,000 a year. If it's $600,000 house times 4%, that's $24,000 a year. That's $2,000 a month on average that you're gaining in equity.
Wow.
So, and you might have only had to put 5% down or 0% down with the VA loan to be tapping into that market. So, I think if I didn't own a home already, I would be trying to buy one right now if I could afford it.
We've got the election coming up, and isn't there like usually a dip right before the elections, where the powers that be try to get everything in order and hey, you know what, let me sweetheart this deal for you. Doesn't that happen quite often? I know it probably can't happen all the time.
There may be a little bit of that, but in politicians are certainly going to try to juice the economy if they're in power to help them stay in power. They're limited in their ability to do that. And so the thing that I see during election years is people get concerned because they don't know what's going to happen. Businesses stop spending as much money. They stop hiring as many people. They don't invest in new capital. And then someone gets elected, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican that gets elected. It just matters that someone got elected and there was a peaceful transfer of power. And that question in people's minds goes away. Now they know what they're dealing with for the next 4 years. So it's really a question of the unknown makes people nervous rather than it's one party or the other. And then things go back to normal. The Federal Reserve, which you see talked about in the news if you pay attention, and raising interest rates, lowering interest rates, those type of things. Those are all short-term interest rates. And mortgages are based on long-term interest rates. So they most closely track the 10-year Treasury bill, which is a government-issued, U.S. Treasury-issued bond that people can buy. And that's how the government funds itself with these bills. So watch the 10-year T-bill if you want to see where rates are going up or down.
Okay.
And
I
that's not even exact. And that T-bill is not based upon so much what the Federal Reserve is doing with short-term interest rates. It's what an investor is willing to pay for that when they buy it. How much interest do they want? And that's based on long-term inflation projection.
Wow.
That's a lot of technical gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And you're into this 20 hours, and your eyes.
Oh no. I'm actually really enjoying this because and this is a question that there is a lot of confusion out there. And we're talking about the election, and I think this is something that might help people understand something a little bit more. Ryan, explain to us the difference between inflation and economy.
Okay. So inflation is merely a comparison of how much you used to have to pay for a product versus how much you have to pay for it now. That might be milk at the grocery store. It might be gas for your car. A measure of inflation is also commodity goods that you might be buying: clothing, supplies for an industrial plant, glues, supplies, raw materials, and rent. Cost of housing is a big part of inflation. And there's a whole bunch of different inflation numbers, and you'll hear CPI, PCE, PPI. Don't worry too much about it. It's just inflation is how much you had to pay for something this year as compared to last year. So currently, core PCE, which is the Federal Reserve's favorite one, is running in the 3s right now, year over year. But if you looked at the last 3 or 6 months, it's in the 2s, maybe even in the 1s if you annualized it. So inflation's come down. It was at 7-8%. The problem is for inflation is that it was running high for a couple of years. And so I haven't looked at this number, but I think it was 17% up in like the last 2 or 3 years. So that means your grocery bill's a lot higher. Your rent's a lot higher. I feel it when I go to the store. I feel it when I'm buying things. When I buy something off of Amazon or Walmart or whatever, you see it. And that's put the hurt to a lot of people. The economy, so inflation number is down right now, right? And people are like, it's great, the inflation's down. Well, that just means that prices aren't going up as fast anymore. They're still up. They're not going down. They're not deflating. So we're still feeling pain. So the government wants to say everything's great. You should feel great because inflation's down. But in your pocketbook, you still know you're paying almost 20% more than you were a couple of years ago.
Right.
And that's tough on people. So that's inflation. Now, then there's the economy. And the economy is how much gross domestic product is, how many goods and services are being produced and purchased every year. And you'll hear a recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP. So I don't know what the gross domestic product of the United States is off the top of my head, but let's just say for argument's sake, it's $1 trillion. It's way more than that, but it's $1 trillion. So if it was $1 trillion last year and this following year, it's $1 trillion and 2 million, it's gone up by 0.2% year over year. So is that number getting bigger every year? Or is it getting smaller? So if it's getting smaller, that's a recession. And right now we're still growing. We're not growing as fast as we were. We during COVID, we shrunk. And then as we came out of it, we grew pretty fast. So for a while, and that's moderating now. And part of that they look at for the economy is number of jobs. Are we adding jobs or are we losing jobs? And right now we're still adding jobs. Slower than we were coming out of COVID, but we're still adding jobs. So our economy is still growing. People have been projecting a recession for the last 2 years. And there's something called the yield curve, which is comparing the short-term interest rate to the long-term interest rate, and it gets inverted. And there's a kind of a joke that predicts recessions when that goes inverted, except for the yield curve has accurately predicted 9 out of the last 6 recessions. It predicts it 9 times, but it only happens 6 times. So it's not a guaranteed thing. But people have been predicting a recession for a couple of years now, and it's just not happening. We're still adding too many jobs, and we're not losing enough jobs yet.
Yeah, and I wonder about this theory. During one of the more recent elections, we voted in a minimum wage hike.
Yep.
That's going to have an effect on inflation.
It will.
These businesses are not going to take a cut to pay a kid more money to work at McDonald's.
Correct.
Things are going to cost more. Things start costing more. Fuel's going to cost more. our ships are being blown up in the sea right now. That's going to make fuel go up,
Mhm.
and I think that's one of the things that we've talked a lot about, the differences in the United States, left, right, red, blue, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Mhm.
But the truth is that, what, there's a lot of things that are going into this, and it's not just one person who does it. It's
Correct.
many people who have something to do with this,
Mhm.
and for thinking that it's only one person or even one political side that's creating all the havoc that we have, that's
Mhm.
just, it's weak-minded.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't care what your politics are. I want to help to get you in a house.
Yep.
We disagree on that
Yep.
all day long, but that doesn't matter. For my
Well,
clients, they're my clients, and I want to help them.
well, brother, I know that you're going to be signing up to join the team here pretty soon. You're going to be joining the family in a giving partner sense, and I'm excited about that. And I think that you and I are going to be working together because you want to get them into the house. You know what? I want to get them into the house because I want to get them off the street. And I think that if we get someone off the street or into a new house, we can possibly get two people into new houses because there will be enough money that can maybe help get someone else off the street. So
Okay. Yeah.
there's a lot of things that, look, we got to shoot for the sky, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
but
you and anybody. So if you're looking at a house, reach out to a mortgage broker. If you got bad credit, it doesn't work. Like for me, find the mortgage broker, the mortgage lender that's going to help you, guide you to get your credit, to help you make a plan. I'm okay with talking to someone, helping them make a plan, and getting them into a house 2 or 3 years later, and talking them and just checking in with them and say, "How you doing?" I love it when a potential client says, "Hey, my credit score went up 20 points." Like,
yeah.
awesome. Awesome. Let's keep working at it. Keep doing the right things and encouraging them until they get there.
I want to thank you very much for staying up as late as you did. I know it's a work day for some of you guys. I may not be able to talk tomorrow. Which is a blessing for most. For me, it's going to be a little odd. But Ryan, it's really great to get you involved in this program. I hope to see you next year with us, and I look forward to working with you to make dreams happen for people in Colorado.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I am
All right.
looking forward to it.
Thank you
Any
very
last
much.
questions before I sign off?
Yes, please.
No, any last questions for me?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't. I'm all good. So, something that may interest you. Terry Wilson just who's been working her butt off to get those last 300 shares and 300 what are they called, the tags.
Uh-huh.
She just sent me a picture with 246. That means we have eclipsed the 300, which means we get to give away 2 trips to Cancun, not just one.
Sweet.
So this is awesome. We're going to give away 2 trips to Cancun. I'm excited about this. So, but I'm glad that you were here when she showed us this. That's exciting. That's really exciting. So, but Ryan, thank you very much for staying up with us, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great night. But let's get out there and let's help as many people as we can, huh?
Totally. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, so did I. I really did. So thank you, Ryan. Have a good night. Go hit that chair again, and this time you can stay.
I'm hitting the bed.
I've heard of one of those. I don't know what it is, but I've heard of one of those. So
yeah.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Catch you later.
Ryan Champion, first time he's joined us. We got our 300, which means we've got 2 trips that we're going to be giving away. I think what we're going to do, and it's because I'm all honesty here, it's going to take me like 2 hours to put Terry Wilson, 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 all over the spin wheel that we've got. So I'm going to get with, just to make sure that he gives them to us, I'm going to get with Will tomorrow. I'm going to tell him that Terry did this and is helping us give away 2 trips. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Will to join me as we spin the wheel together. I think it's just right that we do that. Terry, you are, I'm going to leave this in your hands. If that sounds good, because you did all the work, you tell me. Are you in agreement with that? So I'll wait for your answer. One other thing, folks, we are going to extend the auction because we've only got 2 things with bids on them. Perfect. We're going to do that. Look, Terry's the one who, quite frankly, she's got the most to lose here because she's got the most juice in this game. So we're going to do that. We're going to get this. You know what? Sweetheart, you did so much, and I appreciate that. Like I said, from starting early in the morning. Hey, I got to get off here because Nick's about ready to start. I'm going to share his part. I'm going to share with us right here, but you can probably see Nick starting right now. I'm going to be back to close us out on this feed. I will be back to close us out and to give our last thank you. Terry, thank you very much, folks. We got 300 extra. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. So let me find this real quick, and once we get, it's not going to be on my personal account, I don't think. So I don't do a lot on my personal account. Come on, get off my personal account. Get off my personal account. Thank you. Come on. My computer is kind of telling me, hey, I am tired. I don't want to work no more. I wonder why. Let's see. All right. Let's try Things Network. Huh. I don't know why it's not going. I wonder what's going on there. You know what? I'm just going to play it from here. So let's go on ahead and do this. Let me pull this off real quick. Sorry about the delay, everyone. This show is going to be right around 45 minutes, so I will be back to close us out. In about 45 minutes, we get to watch Nick the Great. Thank you very much for doing this, Nick. You know how much I love your shows, man. So let's watch this. If you guys have any questions, please. Your phone is smoking. Yeah, I'll bet. But if you have any questions, if you want to make sure I'm still awake, go on ahead and ask the questions. I guarantee you I'm going to be sitting right here watching along with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Never thought I'd be coming back so soon. Welcome to a very special episode of Nick Files. I just want to first say I'm not officially back just yet. I'm still technically on hiatus, but I am back for a very special occasion for February 22nd, which is a very important day, especially for our veterans and military, which is known as Project Die Hard. And me, along with several other shows, have agreed and are participating in this project to give our support for all of our veterans and all those, who have been affected by what they've lived through, especially when they served in, the military and whatnot. And very much a lot of the mental issues, I guess, for lack of a better term, that affects them after they come home from, after serving there for a number of years. So, as you know, many of these shows have been participating throughout the course of the day. That's again that's one of the reasons why I am back temporarily. My show will not be officially be back until sometime in late March or early April, but this is quite an exceptional show. And because of that too, we're actually going to take things a little bit differently this time compared to what I've done to show my participation with this special event that's going on again for our veterans and also our allied veterans too. Is my slideshow that I put together is kind of a combination of two different things. But at the beginning and the end, we're obviously going to give my share of what I've learned about, again, when it comes to the mental effects that a lot of these soldiers, these veterans have had, like I said, when they've been serving. And also, we're also going to kind of look at, which I also got some additional assistance to put this slideshow together. I certainly would like to give part of that credit. I know she said she doesn't need it, but I'll still say it anyway. I'd like to give part of this credit to Jan Lynn, who actually assisted me by getting some of this information for me, which I definitely would like to thank her for, because without her, I probably would have been able to get as much information as I got. But honestly, even with the information that I did, and also my mom helps me out too. So thank you very much for that as well. Before we get started, I just want to also say too that in spite of the information that I was able to collect from my mom, Jan, as well as finding some stuff myself, even the information that I found was relatively limited. So I tried my absolute best to try to add as much info as well as many pictures to kind of add to the slideshow. So I do apologize in advance if I didn't really add anything in beforehand, but I did add a few snapshots of certain things that I thought were important. So it's still going to follow on the lines of how I usually do my slideshows. It's just going to be obviously much different. And again, I just only had so much time to gather a lot of this information. Well, excuse me, a lot of the information and pictures to add to the slideshow. So hopefully you guys will find this very fascinating. I really hope so, because I really worked hard throughout a good portion of the night last night and earlier this morning to put this together. And also for anybody who's watching, just so you guys know, this current show is currently being pre-broadcasted. So anybody that does comment later when this does eventually get broadcasted onto Things Network, PAC channel, among the other networks I'm a part of, I will not be able to respond to it because obviously I said it's pre-recorded. So don't think that I'm ignoring comments. I'm doing this now, and this will be broadcasted later. So just want to make things clear on that. But without further ado, let's get started. And hopefully, with the amount of information I got, this should last for at least a good 45 minutes to an hour. So let's get started. Here we go. All right, now let me go through this whole thing. I have to start doing this all over again to make sure that it's being shown. I hope so. Okay, so I just want to make sure this is working correctly, because since I'm not doing this since I'm pre-broadcasting it, I can't see it from my phone, obviously. So let's see. Yep. Okay, we're good. It's showing. Right now, how do we get back? In spite of, what I'm going to present, I obviously still kept the title to still kind of, keep the originality of how I usually do things with these slideshows. But like I said, this is what I'm going to be calling the Project Die Hard 2024 Global Support for our veterans. And like I said, it's not only just focused for our American veterans, it's also for a lot of our allied forces veterans. Allied forces veterans who've served, especially those who have been involved in NATO, especially those in NATO, but even those outside of NATO, we give that support. And Jan actually gave me kind of a good idea. Obviously don't take it the wrong way, but this even goes for veterans that even if they're they were in the countries of where I guess you can say our enemies are, regardless of the fact, no matter which side you're, whether you're on the good side or bad side, whichever side you're on, it's all the same for surviving veterans. So a lot of times, it it affects both sides very greatly, because, and I think it really, and I think that's pretty factual, I guess, for lack of a better term, where you have, soldiers out there who, they come home and they come home and they end up, having all these, after what they've witnessed, while they were fighting, they witnessed a lot of the horrors of war, and seeing a lot of their fellow comrades die right in front of them when they're just simply fighting for the country, and they're looking for some kind of closure, if that makes any sense, if you will. So either way, this is obviously a global support for, again, all veterans regardless. And I guess from this point on, like I said, I'll talk a little bit about that first, and then kind of give a little history of, in this case, how some of our allied forces kind of came together for certain events. Most of it that I was able, most of what I found actually was mainly focused on the early 2000s, especially the combined forces that occurred, that collaborated in Iraq in the early 2000s. So I did have it sent to somebody else to get their review on. They said it was very comprehensive. So I'm hoping that this is going to be just as comprehensive for you guys. I don't know why the title, or hold on one second here. I don't know why the title's not showing up. Let's fix that up very quickly. So bear with me for just a second here. There we go. Okay. So, all right, we're good. Now let me go through this whole thing again. Share this whole thing once again. Bear with me for another minute. And okay. Oh, yeah, I just want to make sure the screen. Okay, yeah, screen share is working. All right. So when you think of, so obviously when it comes to, again, certain things for veterans, who have, had gone through a hell of a lot, while they were serving, in the military or the Marines or the Army, there's always a good likely chance for maybe not exactly everybody, but for a lot of them to have a lot of mental health issues, even possibly homelessness, and believe it or not, even suicide. But the greatest difference among the countries is probably the delivery of mental health programs and services, as they must be coordinated with the healthcare system in each country. To give a couple examples, Canada's federal system poses challenges that do not exist in New Zealand, and the lack of a universal healthcare system in the United States requires a parallel system of health institutions that Canada no longer needs. These considerations, therefore, have a significant influence on how each country develops its own solutions to mental health problems that may arise from military service. In New Zealand, for example, since there is no separate department for veterans, the programs for them are the same as those for serving and transitioning personnel. The smaller number of cases, given the smaller number of personnel, makes it easier for New Zealand to offer individual service. In the United Kingdom, another good example, the services of the armed forces are available to serving and transitioning personnel up to 6 months after release. After that, the National Health Service is responsible for veterans' health care needs. Special needs are met by community organizations, after which the Departments of Defense works through Veterans UK, the central umbrella organization that coordinates service delivery at the local level. For example, in the case of community health services for veterans, the largest partner organization in England is what's known as Combat Stress. In Scotland, Veterans First Point coordinates these services, while another organization coordinates services in Wales. But the thing is, what is important is that, unlike in Canada, the governments of these two countries only coordinate specialized community services. They do not directly provide mental health programs to their veterans. During the study, some discussions on mental health led to a discussion about the connection between mental health problems and homelessness. Now, in the United States, it's no surprise at all whatsoever. Homelessness is clearly a problem, and not just for veterans. I mean, that it goes for a lot of people, unfortunately. I mean, even here in Chicago, we have, I don't know if I would say that we have one of the highest rates. I wouldn't say that necessarily, but we do have a lot of, unemployed and homeless people, still living out in the streets. But either way, however, the large number of veterans in the U.S. means many among the homeless population, definitely. It is therefore easy to assume a cause and effect relationship between a veteran and homelessness. However, this link has not been clearly established. Similarly, data from the United Kingdom do not suggest any direct link between the two. As Captain Heffron points out, there has been a study undertaken in the last few years, only available for London, where we see as few as 3% of all those who are homeless in the London area being ex-armed forces. And indeed, they may come from armed forces of different nations. Excuse me. Now, surprisingly, neither Germany nor France seem to have any specific problem with homeless veterans either. Mr. Charlotte of the Office National des Veterans et des Victimes de Guerre. See, I'm not good with other languages, unfortunately. So I'm sorry. I probably was butchering that whole thing. In France, nothing compares to what the U.S. and Canada have experienced with respect to the homeless. The regional network I mentioned earlier helps individuals in distress to find a local support service. Let me add one thing. It is important to realize that these regional services, these local services, work closely with other government services, particularly the prefects. I'm not sure whether the Canadian system is similar to the French system, but the ONA CVG works extensively with the prefects who have specific responsibility in the area of housing. In France, prefects have quotas for housing that they can assign. Since we all work well with the prefects, we may very well turn to them to try to find housing when a veteran is homeless and in distress. Okay, so now we're going to switch things up. I'm actually going to fix this very quickly. Hold on one second here, because that also was supposed to fade in. See, again, I was working on this, not necessarily so quick, but I was working on it to a point where, as we were getting closer to today, I only had so much time to really do this. So what we're going to discuss next, we're going to just, not necessarily, but kind of almost take a break from that, because like I said, there was only so much that I was able to find to add for this slideshow. So excuse me. We're gonna go into a little bit of a history subject now, which I wish, honestly, if there was more websites that had a lot more, I probably would have had this a little bit more connected, if you will. So I do, again, apologize if I'm just jumping from one subject to another, because there was only so much information I could find about what I was able to find. So either way, it should be interesting. So now what we're going to get into is, like I said, is a little bit of a history lesson. Okay, now, there we go. Now we got the fading correct. Is basically now the Allied forces coming together on one of these operations during the time of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So just to kind of give that kind of support system of different countries, given assisting the U.S. forces in this case, if I'm saying that correctly. Excuse me. So from the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom in March 2003 until March 2009, ground troops from 37 countries deployed alongside U.S. forces, with some 20 other countries providing indirect support. Yet U.S. media and public opinion often regarded this coalition of the willing with either skepticism or disdain, believing that the United States was engaged in a lonely and, by implication, hopeless cause, which I can understand with what they were thinking first, because especially, I mean, honestly, the only what I could really think of is especially after 9/11 in this case. I'm sure the United States basically thought that this was something that, they were going to have, I guess really say that they were going to have to kind of deal with this themselves. But either way, it was still incredible that many other countries decided to deploy their forces during the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom. On the contrary, many countries provided significant military support to the U.S. Army, performing vital missions to assist combat, intelligence, reconstruction, and support operations. The participation of these coalition partners proved critical to the success of the overall mission. This monograph examines the achievements and contributions. The terms allies, coalition forces, coalition partners, and multinational forces are used interchangeably to refer to non-U.S. forces that deployed to Iraq under U.S. theater or regional command. And by the way, I almost forgot to mention, a lot of this information I was able to find, speaking of which, and again, this was with the assistance of Jan, was we actually went through a PDF file of a book that had a lot of this. So a lot of this came from the book that we looked at this information from. But again, there just wasn't that many sites that could provide a lot of this info I was looking for. So we didn't take exactly all of it, but we took what we believe was probably the most important pieces of information to have for this slideshow. Now, these do not include, now going back to these different terms, these do not include forces deployed to Iraq under the, I don't even know how to say that word, of the United Nations, UN, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that are known as NATO, whose troops were not officially part of the U.S. command and control structure. Although the official number is unknown, it's about 60 nations. In addition to the contributions coalition forces made to the operational and tactical environment in Iraq, their presence had obvious strategic implications that reached far beyond the theater of operations. Multinational operations strengthened and maintained long-standing alliances and reflected a general aura of international cooperation among U.S. allies. They also warded off charges of neo-colonialism against the enterprise and imparted a genuine feeling of legitimacy to its aims. Japan's participation in Iraq, its first military deployment since World War II, which is just incredible that, after that long, significantly reinforced its long existing strategic ties with the United States. A similar bond resulted from El Salvador's comparatively large and lengthy involvement in the war. In addition, partnerships forged in coalition operations helped foster new alliances and friendships, which, it's just amazing that especially after certain, if you look in the case with Japan and also El Salvador, after all the, as it says, the strategic ties and rivalries and stuff like that, it's just amazing that they tried to, I guess, bandage up, for lack of a better term, to try to not only increase what, not only just to give the assistance, I guess, but to also just increase that coalition or alliance for all those that, want to help out, in this case of the U.S. or other countries regardless. Now, Georgia's decision to send troops to Iraq, for example, created strong ties with the United States and other Western allies, as did the significant contributions of other Eastern European and former communist bloc nations. Finally, multinational operations helped improve interoperability between U.S. and coalition forces, which will be essential in future combined operations. The U.S. Central Command and U.S. Army planners. Oh, wait a minute. I guess I might have missed a sentence there. Okay. Now, by March of 2003, the term Coalition of the Willing had entered common usage to refer to those countries that supported Operation Iraqi Freedom and the U.S. presence in post-invasion Iraq. The initial publicly released detailing coalition participants in March contained 49 nations. In the later part of that year, the White House revised this original list, decreasing the number to 48 at the request of Costa Rica. Costa Rica's request reflected significant international opposition to military action against Iraq, and foreshadowed, how difficult it would be to keep such a large and diffuse group together. Home multinational armed forces that participated in the invasion of Iraq were under the command and control of the commander of CENTCOM, or if it's CENTO, I think it's CENTCOM. Okay, yeah, CENTCOM, General Tommy R. Franks. Although national chains of command remained strong, CENTCOM, a U.S. regional combatant command established in 1983, had plannished an operational control of U.S. operations in the Persian Gulf from Egypt to Pakistan. It was a U.S. joint command consisting of land, sea, air, and special operations forces. Each of these components was under the combined forces led by General Franks. American and other allied nations' ground forces in CENTCOM served as part of the coalition. Forces Land Component Command, CFLCC, headed by Lieutenant General David D. McKernan. CFLCC consisted of 2 U.S. Corps level headquarters, the U.S. Army V Corps and the I Marine Expeditionary Force. Allied forces, specifically the British 1st Armored Division, served directly under the I think it's supposed to be the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force during the ensuing operations. Meanwhile, Special Operations Forces of the United Kingdom, Australia, and Denmark, according to most reports, became part of the U.S. Combined Forces Special Operations Component Command, or better known as the CFSOCC, another subordinate headquarters of CENTCOM. And this is actually, so right here, this is actually the first chart that I was able to find, the Coalition Forces Land Component Command and U.S. Combined Forces Special Operations Command as of May of 2003. It's still, from what I heard, I mean, if I'm saying this correctly, it still kind of looks the same, but you're going to notice some changes, though, as we press on. So obviously you got the second Secretary of Defense up here, U.S. Central Command down here, Coalition Forces Special Operations Component, which was led by the United States, and the Coalition Forces Land Component Command, which also was led by the United States. Most of these here, as you can see, were led here by the U.S., except for the Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force West. Yes, it was still led by U.S., but it looked like the secondary was also Australia and the U.K., and the 1st Armored Division was led by the United Kingdom also. So that's quite interesting of how they made this whole chain of command, if you will. Oh, now this right here. Shortly after the initial invasion, Spanish soldiers moved into southern Iraq from positions in Kuwait, if I'm saying that correctly. Although they later served in a combat role alongside British and Australian forces, their first task was primarily humanitarian assistance behind the Allied lines of advance. A number of other nations sent troops to Iraq during this phase. Albania, the Czech Republic, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Republic of Korea, Ukraine, and Mongolia all deployed soldiers to Iraq from late March through April. By April 30th, a total of 11 Allied partners had committed nearly 50,000 troops to the coalition effort. To perform its diverse missions, CGTF-7 also had at least limited operational control of all forces within Iraq, including all multinational forces. Now, after May 1st, 20 countries deployed contingents to Iraq: Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Estonia, Georgia, Honduras, Hungary, Italy, Kazakhstan. I can never say that one for some reason. Latvia, if I'm saying that correctly too, Lithuania, Macedonia, Moldova, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Nicaragua, Norway, Philippines, Romania, Slovakia, and Thailand. The influx brought the total number of allied partners in Iraq to 333 and increased the number of non-U.S. troops in Iraq to 25,000. Key to the second expansion was UN Security Council Resolution 1511, passed on October 16th, which officially authorized the creation of a multinational security force in Iraq and urged UN member states to contribute to the force and the reconstruction of Iraq. More nations sent troops after the UN approved the resolution because it provided international legitimacy to the effort. Allied partners played the major role in several of these multinational divisions. The British, who provided the second largest contingent of forces in Iraq, took the lead in MNDSE and provided command and control for a large number of coalition forces in southeastern Iraq, including those from Italy, Australia, Romania, Denmark, Portugal, Czech Republic, and Lithuania. Poland, the third largest troop contributor, took the land in MNDCS, which included troops from the Ukraine, the so-called Plus Ultra Brigade, MNBPU, also known as the Brigada Hispano-Americana, composed of troops from Spain, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua, as well as forces from Kazakhstan, I can't say that one, Latvia, and Mongolia. MNDNE, under the lead of the Republic of Korea, stood up in September 2004 after Seoul agreed, I never really figured out how to pronounce that one, agreed to significantly increase its troop strength and undertake reconstruction and humanitarian efforts in northern Iraq. Now, that's quite amazing that these other allied forces that were added to this, I mean, it was like it just got bigger and bigger, which really goes to show about this kind of, I guess if you want to call it global support, of assisting, again, these different countries. It's just absolutely incredible. Now, now right here, this is the second chart that was created as of June 2003. So now, not necessarily, again, I should take back what I said, not necessarily the same, but it does have a little bit of a difference to it. You still have multinational division, North, Central, and also in Baghdad, all led by the United States, as well as the West, also led by the U.S. And then now, this time, you got the South Division being led by Poland and Southeast led by the U.K. So now they're really starting to kind of take charge of these certain divisions now. In April 2004, CGTF-7 commanded 162,000 ground troops in Iraq, of which approximately 25,000 were coalition soldiers and a Japanese contingent that deployed to Iraq in February of that year. A number of nations, however, withdrew their forces during this time. Nicaraguan forces left Iraq in February due to funding constraints. Then, in the wake of the bombing of the Madrid commuter trains in March by terrorists, Spain withdrew its forces as did the rest of the Plus Ultra Brigade, except El Salvador. These withdrawals resulted in the number of allied nations with troops in Iraq falling to 30. So unfortunately, I mean, it's not really surprising that, even when you have all these different allied nations coming together to fight, unfortunately, some of them will eventually withdraw because, again, for a number of various different reasons, as you can see right here. So it's not surprising the least bit at all. In part, as a response to the deteriorating situation on May 15th, less than 11 months after CJTF 7 stood up, CENTCOM replaced it with two new commands: Multinational Force Iraq, MNF, or better known as MNFI, and Multinational Corps Iraq, MNCI. General Sanchez, the CGTF 7 commander, led MNFI until July 1st, when General George W. Casey replaced him, while Lieutenant General Thomas F. Metz took command of MNCI. Now, the term plus ultra, which is Latin for further beyond, is the national motto of Spain, believe it or not, which is something I never even knew about. Now, shortly after standing up, MNFI adjusted the boundaries of the multinational division areas of responsibility. The basic multinational division structure, however, remained relatively unchanged, with MNDN, MNDNC, MNFW, MNDB, MNDCS, and MNDSE. The only significant alteration was the creation of MNDNE under the control of the Republic of Korea from the MNDN area of responsibility. As a result, MNFI truncated MNDN and renamed it Multinational Force Northwest, MNFNW. Geez, a lot of initials here. In September of 2004, the United Kingdom and Poland continued to provide the lead in MNDSE and MNDCS, respectively. Meanwhile, a few smaller nations added their units to the mix. Tonga deployed a small contingent to Iraq in June 2004, and Armenia deployed its first forces, 50 personnel, in February 2005. Other nations added or subtracted from their deployed forces so that by May, MNFI maintained command and control over 23,000 non-U.S. coalition soldiers. This was only 2,000 fewer soldiers than before CJTF-7 stood down the previous year. While the number of allied partners in the coalition decreased to 25 by May 2005, many of the remaining allied contingents actually increased in size. Now, in the United States, so we actually are getting close to the end of the slideshow, which again, I know it wasn't very much, but it was definitely a lot more than what I was originally thinking we were going to get. But we are now kind of going back to the mental health issue, because again, I want to kind of switch between, regards to the mental health and also an example of different allied forces coming together to fight alongside again with the United States. So now we're going to go back as we get close to the end of this. Like I said, I was anticipating this was going to at least last for probably about a good 45 minutes to an hour. And let's see how far we've gotten so far, because I was reading relatively slowly and carefully. So we're only at 35 minutes. I was expecting it was going to go a lot more longer, but I still got at least another 2 or 3 more slides, and it's going to last for quite a while anyway. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it for a full hour, but I could see it lasting for at least about a good 40. Okay, so I'll put it between another good 40, 45 minutes. And once again, I just want to say for everybody who's tuning in right now, this is actually a pre-record broadcast, so I'm not actually live as of right now. So again, if anybody's wondering why I'm not answering, saying hello or answering any questions or anything like that, again, this is all pre-recorded. So don't think I'm ignoring you. I promise you guys. So anyways, to get things, as we get close to the end of this, but still have a little bit more to go. In the United States, it is commonly believed that there is a direct causal link between the suicide rate and veterans, given the risks of mental problems. So once again, like I said, going back to the mental issues, of what a lot of these soldiers are affected by after they've been overseas. As Robert Reynolds of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs reported, 22 U.S. veterans, sadly, and honestly, this is something I never even knew, 22 U.S. veterans commit suicide each day. In Canada, believe it or not, the suicide rate among veterans is about 50% higher than among serving members and the general population. It is not clear whether this difference is as significant in the other countries studied. Mr. Borstler strongly objected to this popular belief, which he thinks stigmatizes veterans and makes employers worry that all veterans suffer from mental health problems and will be a danger rather than an asset to the organization. When I educate employers every day, I talk about the misnomer that is post-traumatic stress, about demystifying it and talking about the data. They say that 22 American veterans commit suicide every day. Let's drill down on that data. We don't have to go into the specifics when we talk to the employers because they usually get it right away. But 20 out of those 22 veterans are white males over the age of 60. This is exactly consistent with the civilian population in the United States. Now, it was actually supposed to show up here. I guess I must have accidentally took it out. But it does show, believe it or not, that white males over the age of 60 do tend to commit suicide, unfortunately, at a higher rate than do other populations, which, again, something I know a lot of them often suffer, of course, PTSD, but I never thought that it was mainly for those who were over the age of 60 that actually have these suicidal thoughts, but does make a lot of sense when a lot of years have gone by. In order to prevent further mental health issues from occurring in their transition and reintegration into civilian life, we need to focus more on the employment and career transition instead of putting more dollars and media attention and efforts into explaining why veterans are broken, rather than why we're civic assets and we will be the best employees at your company. This statement offers some food for thought. Just because a veteran committed suicide does not mean he committed suicide because he was a veteran. We must challenge the preconceived suspicion that veterans are less reliable in the workplace because of the potential mental health challenges that have become too often associated with them. All the evidence provided to this committee clearly demonstrates that veterans tend to, in fact, be more reliable in the workplace than other employees. And unfortunately, again, that was pretty much it. So again, I really wish I could. Again, I did hours studying, trying to find more stuff like that. And they're just, again, even with additional help, I just couldn't find as much as I was hoping to. So this was really the best I could come up with. I didn't want to go too deep into what I was talking about because, again, I wanted to also make this, again, in part for Project Die Hard, make this also about mental illness. For veterans. And, it's, I'm hoping this was, pretty consistent because, again, it's amazing that even when I did the research that there was just such limited websites that really told a lot about it, not just regarding, let's say in this case with the United States and Canada. It's like that I just couldn't find a lot for really a lot of other countries. So it's just, I don't know. It's something really different that I've never really, sorry. Actually just got a message from Jeremy. So I guess I'll answer that right after I get off here. But yeah, it's just something that it's just kind of strange that, there are websites like where they can offer, support for veterans, whether it's again here in the United States or, in Canada, as well as other countries, but there's not very many websites that really kind of give a lot of description about how a lot of how effective these veterans are, after they've served overseas or they fought in these wars. It's just, I don't know. It's just something relatively unusual. And it's definitely something that I think should definitely be looked upon, to kind of be more studied, I guess, for lack of a better term. And, it's a very important thing because we kind of do have to look at things in this case from the veterans' point of view, because you can never really understand what they have gone through, especially when they've served, again, whether it's military or the Marines or even the Navy, or but more, I guess I'll say more for the like Marines and military. And we've often heard stories time and time again for those who served, who have fought in these wars. They observed the wars and horror, the horror and wars, excuse me. And it must be very, very difficult for them to comprehend. Obviously, as a grandson of 2 World War II veterans and also a relative of a few veterans who have also served in Vietnam, not necessarily both of my grandfathers, they didn't although they both served in World War II, they didn't actually witness a lot of the fighting itself. But in the case with, I don't know fully, but with some of my distant relatives who have served in Vietnam, I certainly cannot imagine what they gone through. And although I haven't seen most of them for a while, even though they seem to be living a very normal life, I'm sure that deep down inside, that effect is still very, very real for both, for even after all these years. So nonetheless, it sticks to you forever, regardless. It will never go away. Again, that's why we have something that's called PTSD. Well, I wouldn't say that's why, but a lot of these soldiers, indeed, they do suffer PTSD, and later in life, from what now I learned is that they do often have these thoughts. Some of them do have these thoughts of suicide, apparently over the age of 60, which is again something I just learned for myself in this presentation. So it's I don't know, it's very unfortunate, but that's why I think by doing something like this will definitely give a lot of support, and help out for these veterans, again, not just here in the United States, but also for a lot of these other countries, including even those who have fought currently out, either in with the war in Ukraine and Russia, or Israel and Palestine. I mean, those are 2 primary examples where years, whenever these do end, it's going to have an effect on a lot of the surviving soldiers that fought for their respective countries. So the reasons are never good, but the loss of life is certainly out even worse. But for those who survive, again, it will have a lasting effect on them nonetheless. But anyways, again, I know this wasn't really a very long one, but we did manage to make it almost to the 45-minute mark. So this actually did work out pretty well. I'll message him later. I definitely would like to thank Zach of Pack Channel, of course, all the other shows on the other networks I'm a part of. But I guess in this case for Zach, I definitely would like to thank him for allowing me to take part in this, bring this special Nick Files on for Project Die Hard, to give my support and to give my information out. I took part in it last year, if you guys remember. I did the year before. I'm hoping to do it again next year. Of course, now that I got a full year, I'm going to really kind of do some hard thinking on what I'm going to be talking about for next year, because trying to come up with what I wanted to talk part of was a little bit more difficult than I expected it was going to be. So I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about until literally like 2 nights ago. And that's why, again, giving Jan the credit, she had this idea of talking about, different, countries coming together. And again, even if it's countries that, we've never really fought with before, the fact that we grew to quite a large number, that's pretty incredible. It really is. So, but either way, again, I do apologize if I didn't really add like a lot of pictures, or I didn't get as much as I was hoping I was going to get. It was the best that I could do. And I hope either way you guys found it interesting regardless. So I definitely would like to thank Zach. I also would like to thank, again, Jan and my mom for providing the information for me to put this slideshow together. And for anybody that tunes in later today, I'm going to say thank you in advance for checking it out. We really appreciate it. As you guys know, like I said at the beginning, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show, I'm not officially back just yet. Again, I'm still on my hiatus. Again, I was only coming on to help take part in this special event. So I will be back, as a reminder, sometime in late March or early April. I haven't even gotten started on the other presentations yet, but they are currently underway, which I'm hoping to begin sometime in early March. So that's why I'm saying late March, early April is when I'm going to get started again. But either way, I'll begin start with this in just a couple of days, sometime after February. But as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, it's definitely good to be back. I will see you guys in just a couple of weeks, and I'm already coming up with a good list of things I'd like to present. Of course, we're going to continue on with, for starters, the cryptid stories, because I do have a few more cryptids I would like to present before we get back into the haunted and historical locations. So it's going to be great. So I can't wait for season 3. So season 3 coming soon, just another month or so. But again, thank you everybody so much, and I'll see you again real soon. And Zach, thank you once again for letting me take part in this. You guys all have a great night.
Three years ago today, I started this. 3 years ago today, I finished just like we're finishing right now, except for we didn't have the number of people who participated. We didn't have the love that was shown to us today. We didn't have the recognition of what we're trying to do. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who spent 22 seconds with us. Because I think one of the things we found out today in this whole show, we've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go. But I think that we also found out something very, very important. We've got a long way to go, but if we start communicating, we might be closer than we think. There are a lot of problems when it comes to our veterans, our heroes of any kind, okay? There's a lot of problems for your neighbors, for us as humanity. We deal with a lot of problems every day. We need to stop being so judgmental, and we need to remember, look, life isn't perfect, and it's not ever going to be. If it was, honestly, it'd be boring. It'd be terrible. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our failures a hell of a lot more than we learn from our successes. We've got a long way to go. We're going to continue the auction because we need to try to raise a little bit more money. Problems started yesterday with Buffalo Wild Wings. They dropped out. 2 of them dropped out. It is what it is. We're going to try again next year. Next year, this is on a Saturday. Next year, if you've got a story to tell and you want to participate, I invite you. Tell us what you want to do. I think the funny thing is that we've got 22 hours, and that seems like an extremely long time. But I want you to look at what happened to me today. At the end of every hour, I wish we could have continued. We were learning so many things about so many people. None of this could have happened without you. And I thank you for that. It means more to me than you will ever know. Seeing your commitment to caring, your commitment to a desire for change, that means everything to me. Community Pay It Forward, the life and the companies that Adrian and I are building. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for partners. We're looking for people to come together. As it says in every video I do, come together. Because if we come together, we can make a difference that changes lives. And it's not a difficult thing to do. Our show started out very shaky at 1:30 this morning because I had no internet. And so my first hour and a half was started with Sean Winnington. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking over when my internet dropped off and my cell phone was really shaky. And these times I'm giving you are, the times I'm giving you are in Mountain because I'm tired and I don't want to, I don't want to try to think. So, 3:20 a.m. Mountain time, my brand new friend, Terry Wilson, joined us. She's still offering a free a reading. It's not a free reading because there's an auction. Consider that, please. At 4 a.m., we played the interview with Carolyn from For My Cards. Again, For My Card, they're offering a free year of a For My Card so you can take that digital card and really impress the hell out of people. 5 a.m. we had Patty, Dale, And remember, she wasn't scheduled. She wasn't scheduled. She called and she said, I see what you're doing. I served for 10 years. Can I talk? We got her on. And Daniel Bello, the founder of Rescue Resident, turning ambulance into tiny homes. Just fantastic. Timothy Mabry joined us at 6 a.m. along with Kyle Goodnight, a recording of Kyle Goodnight. Two men that they've been through a lot of stuff. They've been through a lot of things. They've battled the demon. They've defeated the demon. But that doesn't mean the fight's over. Ricky Birkenstock. Look, that kid is amazing to me. It's so funny when you listen to him talk, how adult and how professional he is, thinking that he used to be a gangbanger and doing drugs and all the stuff that he did. But that just proves we're not our past. We are who we are. Our bad decisions can shape us into good people. And Coach Joe, by the way, there it is, 22 hours. Followed by Alan Holmes, Jared Smith, and Brian Muka. 9 o'clock, we had Sarah Kuoku, Emily Chavez, and Rob Holman. 10 a.m., Debbie Hayes, Dogs and Tags, and Taki Hicks. 11 a.m., we had Siobhan, Eric Maxwell, and Trevor Gibbs. And noon, we spent an hour with the Brainy Bunch networking show. You're always invited. Come and check us out. 1 p.m., we had Mr. Z, Tanya, and Marshall. And Brian Shamp. 3 p.m., we had Ryan Irish, Greg Lake, Kane Ustaf, another member of Kane's program. Oh, God, I can't remember his name, and I forgot to write it down. But a lot of people showed up in that one. And remember, that's when we started feeling a lot of the anxiety, hearing about the number of suicides and being told you're on a 6-month waiting list. 3 p.m., we had our Northern Colorado Hour with Janet and Bart. I truly love those two. I'm not joking there. They're so good. For our 4 o'clock hour was spent with Mr. Les Simpson. 5 p.m., we had Carmen Booker and Brian Gibson. Carla Lemon was supposed to be with us, but unfortunately she lost a member of her family the day before. Carla, our hopes and our thoughts are with you. We will be in touch soon. Kim Mosley, Susan Ahern, Kim's sister, Diamond Drip, all joined us at 6 p.m. Very emotional, very educational hour. Then at 7, we had the great time with Will Black. And thanks to you, we get to give away 2 trips. I'll be letting everyone know tomorrow what day we're going to be doing the spin. 8 and 9, we spent with Things Network. 10 o'clock, we spent with Ryan Champion. 11 o'clock, the great and very talented Nick led us through some history. That's it. We're done. Please remember, If you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. No one needs to go it alone when we all come together. Look, every single one of us has something in our closet that doesn't fit. Throw that old hoodie in your car. Make sure that it gets on the back of somebody who's struggling with the temperatures. Make too much food, throw it in the old hillbilly Tupperware, in an old butter bowl. Zap it in the microwave and take it to someone who you know is battling with hunger. Small changes, small actions can mean life-saving changes for people. Please love somebody out there, because somebody out here really loves you and appreciates everything that you've done. My name is Zach Clayton with Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I invite you to join me every Monday at 6 p.m. East for Footprints Forward, and every Wednesday for the PACT podcast. Every week, we try to do our best on Mondays to talk about the entirety of the suicide situation. That's what Footprints Forward is. Footprints Forward was started last year because of this show. I decided we can't just talk about it for one day and walk away for 364 days. We need to do better. Footprints Forward was started with Mr. Z and Stephanie Samos, Goddess of the Grapes. We are carrying on and have some fantastic guests. Go check out our YouTube channel and you can see. Again, please take care of yourself, take care of the people you love, and take care of each other. Look, folks, we're all we got. Thank you. Good night.
Stepping out of her fear, bring me home, out alone, show me the way. You wanna be a part of Sunset Boulevard.